So, sorry. So, but in Kings of the Street, we do say that we have homeless families, because usually we talk in Slovenia about socially disadvantaged families, families that live in poverty, but a lot of families actually come to our services. So we say that families that come to us are families that don't have access to safe and sustainable accommodation, families who have experienced or are at risk of eviction, so their housing issue is not resolved. We also see the emergence of intergenerational persistence of extreme social exclusion with families. But rather talking about homeless families, we use term vulnerable families at Kings of the Street, because although vulnerability has a variety of manifestations, vulnerable families share the characteristics of accumulation of problems in various areas of life, from a lack of material goods and housing, somatic difficulties, social isolation, and relationship problems with family members and neighbors, to the problems within the work sphere and conflicts with various forms of authority, also including counseling and supporting services. So the problems faced by vulnerable families are multidimensional and intertwined, we could say. We can talk about the mutual influence of problems in various areas of one's life negatively impact one other. Because many institutions in education, social welfare, and healthcare system come into the contact with these families, we could also say that, and these families could be described as multi-agency families. And despite the fact that many professionals are engaged in these families, the problems often continue to accumulate and the situation actually worsens, and the complete stagnation of support process is not unusual. I would like to show you all the institutions that are connected with the families. You will see why this is maybe important to say, because we really try to cooperate with all different organizations that are involved in the families. So this is, for example, Center for Social Work, so Child Protective Services, different NGO organizations, so in the field of social welfare, also humanitarian organizations, kindergartens, schools, health facilities, housing fund, police, and so on. Like I said, in Slovenia, assisting families at home within the framework of broad social welfare system is a fairly undeveloped area. So Child Protective Services offer shelters for victims of domestic abuse and kind of maternity homes, so housing organized by Child Protective Services for mostly mothers with children that are homeless. But when families leave these organizations, this continuous support actually stops. So when experts in conventional services talk about the vulnerable families, many things are based on assumptions rather than experience, because they either have no experience of home visits or such visits are very rare. So that's why we said that we have to develop some new approach, evidence-based approach. And now we are in this process for 5 years together with the Faculty of Education, more precise with the Department of Social Pedagogy, where we are together in researches developing this new approach. The main characteristics of this support are flexibility, presence in the daily life of the family, building a cooperative relationship, and prioritizing the dynamics and needs of the family rather than the formal demands of organizations and institutions. Our researchers actually show that both the families and the expert services experience dissatisfaction when it comes to their cooperation. Families often feel that they are being sent from one door to another with their problems, which remain unaddressed, while expert services feel that they cannot cope with the problems of vulnerable families. So that's why we say that we have to develop more flexible and consistent forms of support that respond to the concerns and challenges of the daily lives of vulnerable families. Now maybe more concrete to our work. So currently, so today, we have 5 families in our settlement program, 20 families in eviction prevention program, and 40 to 50 families in our preventive community program. All the supporting work that we do with families is within all the programs that we do. For example, our settlement and eviction program, we don't have specific program for families because we cannot get any funds and financing for the supporting work for families that we do. That is why, because we don't address homeless families or vulnerable families in Slovenia. Because there's all the time lack for staff, we are trying to build supportive network with other organizations, like I said before. So in our program, professional workers are engaged into the families and also volunteers. Volunteers are usually students of social pedagogy, social work, or actually sport pedagogy. So our individual support, just check the time. We know that we entered the intimate family sphere and there is initial distrust. So the first steps are very slow and we have to build trust with the families. It is important that involvement is in their daily lives and we are responding to their needs of the family. So through partnership, monitoring and support, we significantly strengthen their social network. We say that we help the child by making the family safer and stronger. Parents need someone to stand by them and give them a step-by-step experience of good parenting. It is very important that we provide safe and welcoming space for all the family members. And what is, I think, the most important is that the family participates in the health process and that we find common definition of the problem that the family faces. What we also noted that is very important is happened. Sorry. I don't know why this is moving. Sorry. Okay. Personal engagement of professional workers is very important, and this is what is very appreciated from the family. And going beyond protocols and acting in favor of the family, that is very important because our rigid systems is very long-term process, and sometimes family need instant solution or instant support, and this is very important that we are really addressing the needs of the family and trying to go beyond the protocols. And here, of course, there is a tension between the principle of family empowerment and participation, and this new approach, like a new approach and the old approach, the principles of conventional child welfare system practices that focus on rescuing and protecting the children. Maybe just now, these practical things that we do, like I said, so flexible support in response to the current situation. So what the family needs right now. Here's one quote from one volunteer. Maybe it's a good example of what this means. I decide based on the needs I see are there, based on how many children are at home and what the dynamics and atmospheres are like. One of the children needs a bit more attention, or if the home is untidy and I see that it would suit the mother if the children went away for a while, so she could tidy the place up a bit. So this is like really a flexible support on everyday need. Like I said, our key role is that we are coordinators and support network providers. So we have regular and active cooperation with different institutions, like I said before, Center for Social Work, health institution, kindergartens, and so on. So, and we are initiators of integrated joint support. This means that all the organizations and institutions that come to the family, they have the same goal. For instance, if now is the problem in school, all the organizations know that now maybe the focus on the school, so that different professions don't have different expectations in the same moment. And this is a key for the good support for the family. We also cooperate with different other organizations. For example, Family Lab. Maybe you know Luna's Villa is like a counseling for children, like therapeutic counseling for children. And like I said, if we address the needs of the family, we also cooperate, for instance, for breastfeeding counselors, for pedokinetics. There is a possibility of psychotherapeutic counseling. So what families or parents say that they would need, we try to offer them. This is a quote of one teacher in kindergarten. She said, I value, and we've been talking about it here, the method you use, that you go into the battlefield, because it's really the most valuable and the most valuable, I think. We've also got a wealth of information from you that we otherwise wouldn't have. I don't know anything about anyone else working with a family like this. So for instance, we help with the household care. So we help them clean, tidy the place, with cooking. We help them with family budget management. This is I think, very important role. If the family is in debt, how to support them with good budget management, psychosocial support, and like I said, practical support in solving concrete problems. For example, if the dentist said that children should brush their teeth off from this day on, we go with family to home and brush and show them how to brush their teeth, for example. Maybe I would like to say one story also here, that we had two pregnant women in our program, and their partners didn't want to go to the labor with them. So two of our professional workers actually went with the mothers to the labor, because they really ask for this support. So this is how we actually address all the needs that are here and now. Very important is strengthening parental competencies, support in education, fellowship, what volunteers usually do. So they have leisure activities for the family, for all the members of family. And they also offer child care when parents need some time off, because school is very important for the parents, school success. We also give learning assistance for children. Like I said, we connect and cooperate with other institutions. We give advocacy, and we create and strengthen a new social network. For example, we helped family to I don't know, find some new activities outside of the Kings of the Street and so on. And we organize various events. For example, we go to the seaside. We have I don't know, Santa Claus theater play. I don't know, different activities where people can experience like all the mainstream activities that usually family do experience. This is also one quote from a volunteer. I would say that we've gone from having the status of a guest to someone who comes over and is served a coffee, to being sort of a friend, or let's say acquaintance, who comes over and does some activities primarily with the children, but afterwards they will say, sit down for a while. Before I mentioned also a preventive community work, maybe just a few more words about this. We have a so-called community space, which is a special safe space where professional staff can respond to the open needs that are on ongoing basis. So this is a space of community, intergenerational, interethnic, and interlayer meetings of residents. of block of flats. These are usually non-profit apartments, like kind of a social apartments or housing units, and which are intended for housing the most vulnerable individuals and families. So in this space, we do a lot of different activities for the whole neighborhood, and because we think that community integration and cooperation is a powerful preventive anti-eviction factor. In this space and through all these activities that we offer to families and all the neighborhood, we are building a trusting relationship with families. And I think that this is very important when there is a crisis situation, that we already have a good relationship and it's easier to start with individual work. So here you can see, here are some pictures of these activities that we do in this community space. So circus activities, outside activities, where a lot of different people from all the neighborhood come. So it's and this is the seaside and the picnic event that we organized for the families. Like I said, I think it's very important to talk about this topic in like wider and broader to the broader audience, because even though if we are really small country, Slovenia, and I don't know, for example, we have 50 families involved in our program, I think that there is possibility that we from now on can start a good supportive work, and we don't need to wait for the numbers increased in such a way that, for example, like you said before, the number of homeless family very increased in Ireland. That's it for me. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Anna. I'll directly give the floor to Josephine, and I'm just so telling the participant we can't see you or hear you, but please feel free to type your question in the box you have on the chat box or the Q&A box, so we can collect them now and ask them to Josephine and Anna afterwards. So Josephine, you are head of unit at the European Commission DG Employment. We heard from Hannah about the reality of organization work, and we've asked you to come and tell us a bit about the EU policy framework. How can it support children in situation of homelessness or families at risk of homelessness? And when you see Hannah speaking of her work, how do you think this fits in with what the EU policy can do to support member states to support those organizations? Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for inviting me. I listened very carefully to Hannah's presentation, which was very, very interesting. So I do not have a PowerPoint. I suggest I will make my presentation in the following way. So I will first do some general remarks and some comments also to Hannah's presentation. Then I will give you a bit of a broader picture what the Commission does on children and the child guarantee. Then a few words on the roadmap, and then I'm available for questions. So I hope that this outline is okay with you. So for the first remarks, just a formality. I am not formally acting head of unit. I am deputy head of unit, but it's just to be correct. I also want to mention that the action plan for the European Pillar of Social Rights, including our Principle 19, will come early 2021, because you mentioned earlier that the child guarantee will be only one initiative. It needs to be seen in a broader perspective. So I want to put already up front that the Commission will come with the action plan on the pillar and Principle 19 in 2021. So Hannah, thanks a lot for a very nice presentation, including with the pictures. We take note of the concerns that you flag, the issue of the lack of data, issue of definitions, and I take note also of what you said on the current absence of a program, and also of the number that you indicated of 45,000 children. My main takeaway of your presentation was indeed the complexity of the issue. It's not a one size fits all. It is really a complexity of factors and a complexity of issues that need to be addressed. So a few words now on what the Commission does overall on the child guarantee, because it's not only the issue of the roadmap that has been referred to. The Commission has, with regard to the child guarantee, three main strands. The first one is a study. It is called a preparatory action. So this is something that the European Parliament asked the Commission to do in 2017. They asked us to do a study to see if there could be a child guarantee. And this study contains of three parts. The first part was a feasibility study to see administratively and legally in the member states if there could be child guarantee. This study is finished, so it was published in spring, the final report, and there FIANSA was involved, and there is information also in that study on homelessness. The second part of this preparatory action is an economic feasibility study, which is ongoing now, which looks more on the financial side. The third step, which is also just started, goes on in parallel, and this is conducted by UNICEF, who is testing various pilot projects on the ground in selected member states relating to children. This work is currently ongoing, and we are of course following this very, very closely to see how it can feed into our work on the child guarantee. The second issue that the Commission has been doing on a child guarantee is that we had a proposal in the European Social Fund Plus that the member state should allocate 5% of ESF resources to fight child poverty. Whether or not this will happen will not depend on us, but on the co-legislators, the Council and the European Parliament, who are now discussing the upcoming funding program of the EU, including this European Social Fund Plus. So that is the second leg that we are looking a little bit on the money side. Then the third aspect, which I will focus on, is what you have seen in the roadmap, which is the policy program, the child guarantee, and just to take you through a little bit what we note. So we have a clear political instruction on this child guarantee. This is an important priority for President Ursula von der Leyen. She has announced that she wants to adopt a child guarantee to ensure that every child in Europe at risk of poverty or social exclusion has access to the most basic of rights like healthcare and education. We also note now, when we work on this, the effect of COVID-19 pandemic on the well-being of children, with the poorest children most likely to have been affected. And we think this has accentuated the need to act on this. The child guarantee will focus on access to services. We see that the Commission has done quite a few things already in the past. You may be aware of the 2013 recommendation on investing in children, breaking the cycle of disadvantage, which recommended to the member states to implement policies to address child poverty. The Commission has monitored this recommendation, and we have also issued other initiatives, such as a 2019 Council recommendation on high quality early childhood education and care systems. Let me take you now to the next one. We note, however, that there are still a lot of problems and challenges for child poverty. we see that close to 1 out of 4 children, 23.4%, remained at risk of poverty or social exclusion in 2018. And we note the decrease in GDP that may come from the COVID-19, which really, as I said, triggers the need to take action. So on the child guarantee as set out in the roadmap, the Commission plans to adopt in 2021 a proposal for a Council recommendation on a child guarantee. The aim of this is to trigger policy action and investment by the Member States to close the gaps in terms of services for children who need extra support. This should not be seen in isolation, the child guarantee. It will contribute to many other aspects that we're doing. It will contribute to implementing Principle 11 of the European Pillar of Social Rights on childcare and support to children. And it will be a factor in the Commission's work on fighting child poverty under a broader context of the action plan of the European Pillar of Social Rights. They will also complement an EU strategy on the rights of the child that will also come in 2021. So I think this is important, that including also on issues like homelessness, that the child guarantee is not the only instrument that the Commission will take now in the coming months. We will do a lot of things. With regard to the child guarantee as such, is that it looks at access to services for children in need in quite a broad field. And I thought that was interesting also to see the broad fields actually that were covered by Hannah in her presentation. So we are looking at education and early childhood education and care, including participation in cultural and leisure activities, healthcare and nutrition, and housing. The roadmap, as you have seen and which you have commented on, is an instrument where the Commission sets out the scope of what we are looking at. And you can see that we are looking at a very broad scope. Then what the final product will look like will, of course, be developed further on. But just to give you a bit, the mere fact that something is not specifically mentioned in the roadmap does not mean that the Commission will not address it. The fact that something is mentioned does not mean that this is exactly what the Commission will do. It is the first scoping exercise that we do, which is very broad. So what we have in mind is that the Commission would propose a policy framework at EU level, which should allow the Member States to find the solutions that they need according to the specific situation faced by the children in need in their Member States. So the precise actions and what is needed will be decided by the Member States. We have suggested in the roadmap that to implement the child guarantee, the Member States would ensure strategies and foresee that action is really taken to find these children in need. And I think this binds also to what Hannah said, that currently some Member States do not have data of homeless children. So here it is an effort then to reach out and find children who need extra support. So we also suggest action plans where Member States would adopt national action plans and really identify who needs our support in these broad fields, what action should be taken to help them. This is very much a national competence of the Member States. So the Commission's role in this child guarantee would be to help and build the capacity of national local authorities in the Member States, and this can be done in various ways. We can also strengthen actions at national local level by providing policy coordination. And then we could help with guidance on the use of EU funds, in particular the European Social Fund Plus. But there, as I said, we are waiting to see what the European Social Fund Plus will actually look like. With regard to consultation, so there is an ongoing public consultation on the European Pillar of Social Rights, including its Principle 19, which closes in November. So there you may provide comments. We then, of course, take into account the feedback that we get on the roadmap that we published, where the deadline expired on the 7th of October. And we have well taken note of the comments we got from Fianza to this roadmap. Then the Commission will do targeted consultations and also follow very closely the ongoing preparatory action that we are doing. I thought I would stop there and then leave the room for questions, because I think that is really the purpose of this session. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Josephine, for your presentation. And thank you very much, Hannah. So it's great. We have 15 minutes for questions. So we already have received a few ones. So please continue to feed in with questions. I must say the chat was very active during your presentation. Many people want to thank you, Hannah, for your presentation. Some people commented that they could not see Josephine PowerPoint. It's because there is not a PowerPoint to see. But we are taking note, and we will send you these notes so you can go back to them as a summary of the debate. So the question we have first maybe for Hannah. Thank you. So from D Tier 1, I was just wondering about the setup of your space. Do you provide family housing, or is your project an intervention to prevent family homelessness, or both? And how do you manage cultural differences when engaging families in the activity you mentioned? And for Josephine, you mentioned the UNICEF pilot project. Can you tell us a bit more about those projects? What do they do? What are they trying to achieve, and in which country are they? So let's start with this. Hannah, can you start, please?
Yes. Yes, it's both, as you mentioned. So for we have a supporting housing program for families. Actually, we started a resettlement program for adults, but then these adults became parents and they were our long-term users of our service, services. So there was a need that we start with housing the families. But like I said, we don't have any special funding for this family housing. So that's why we are trying to make our best in our current program of resettlement. So yeah, the other way is that we give this flexible support to families that live in municipality apartments, like social apartments, we could say, and they are at risk of eviction. So we empower them that they don't lose their homes. And yes, in a way, we do this prevention work also in this community space, like you said. So where people come, gather, we support these families that actually live in these social apartments. We build trust relationship with them and offer them different activities. So maybe empower them that they wouldn't be at risk. Maybe this other question is the answer to the other question is maybe when we open this community space, we notice that if we want to attract vulnerable families to this program, it is not enough just formally open the door to everyone, but we had to be very proactive and in a specific way involve these families, which means also taking into account their specific needs and possibilities and planning, and maybe For example, there are also a lot of Roma families that come to this community space, and there are all the time and we give this space that we talk about these cultural differences, and I think that actually families are very open to this, because in a way they say we already build this trust in the community. I think so. This is why they accept all these cultural differences. They really try to learn from each other. So I think that giving this safe space where everyone is welcome really gave this opportunity to meet all these cultural differences. Can I just answer this other question, and then maybe Josephine can overtake? So how many people work with 15 families? In the resettlement program, there are 3 professional workers, and in the this eviction prevention and preventive community work, there are me and my coworker and 4 volunteers. So yeah.
Thank you very much.
In Ljubljana, oh sorry, just in Ljubljana and in Maribor, because we don't do this only in Ljubljana, but in the other city in Maribor, there are 2 professional workers that work in this community space. So yeah, 4 professional workers and 3 volunteers. Thank you.
Thank you. So I have more questions, but first, Josephine, on the UNICEF pilot project, can you tell us a bit more, please?
Yes, so this has just started, and I would refer you to the press release that UNICEF announced yesterday. I will see if I can upload the link. Otherwise, you can Google it on UNICEF and press release. So it was announced yesterday that the UNICEF will start pilot program to address the issue of child poverty. It will be implemented in 7 member states, trying to find innovative approaches for prioritizing children in national budgets and how to plan the work to tackle child poverty and social exclusion. The member states concerned are Bulgaria, Croatia, Germany, Greece, Italy, Lithuania, and Spain, and they work together with UNICEF on this. And this, as you know, it is a national competence issue, and also very often issues relating to children, including in the area of homelessness, are things that are dealt with very much at the local level. So exactly what needs to be done is something that will be developed together with these member states. They will test innovative approaches and development of potential national action plans to reduce child poverty and address systematic disadvantages for particularly vulnerable groups of children. They mention in the press release children from the Roma community, children in institutional care, children living with disabilities, refugee and migrant children. The pilot program will also help to strengthen the capacities of member states to regularly collect, analyze, and present data related to and indicators related to both child poverty and social exclusion. I will see if I can copy the press release on here in the chat.
Thank you. Okay, so I have more question to both of you. Hannah, you spoke at some point on the importance of social support and how it actually really makes a difference. And I was wondering, how do you address the issue of non-take-up? So what we can see is that often there are actually public social services or public social support organized for families, but that the most vulnerable family don't tap on those mechanisms. So how does the organization work with the family? Do you reach out to them, or are they addressed to you by public services, or do they come to you? That's the first question. Second question, how are you funded? Is it mainly public funding? And then a bit more of a general question. You heard Josephine's presentation on the aim of the child guarantee, and how do you think this European initiative will actually make a difference to your daily work? And a question to Josephine. You mentioned that it's not because something is not mentioned in the roadmap that it won't be addressed. Does it mean that we can hope that children homelessness and family homelessness could become a target of the child guarantee in the future? And then maybe a bit of a more controversial question, but you clearly said that the child guarantee will establish a policy framework at EU level, and then to support member states, and then member states will prioritize at national level. But don't you think, I mean, will there be specific criteria at European level to establish who are the children in need? Because otherwise, don't you think that there is a risk that some children and family really in need could fall out of the scope of the child guarantee mechanism? And I'm thinking, when I say that, of migrant children and refugee children in particular, because someone in the chat referred to this particular, sometimes challenging situation. So I'll give the floor to Hannah and then Josephine, and I think then we will have to finish unless there is an important question coming. Thank you, Hannah.
Yes, I will try not to give a short answer. First, like I said, actually parents came to us, like they were our long-term users. So they were homeless, sleeping rough, and then they became parents.
We can't hear you. We didn't hear you. Sorry, you must. No, it's okay. So if you can start again. Yeah, thank you.
No, it's that the people first, when we started with this family support, parents actually came to us by themselves because they were our long-term users. I don't know, sleeping rough. Then they became parents, and they asked for support from our organization. And then in that point, we realized that we need to have a common supporting goal to these families, because like you said, the Center for Social Work, they had different idea how these families should cooperate. So by giving all these institutions and organizations different perspective on this specific family, and all these, like I said before, all these complex issues that this family have, that actually changed the perspective of different services like social Center for Social Work or Child Protective Services. And I think that now in this moment, all the institutions see us as someone that is doing a professional work, and that are partners in supporting these families. And now it also happens that other social services call us and they say, oh, you're doing such a great job by supporting this family, could you also be involved in this family? So I think that when we reach this point that we are equal how to say, that we are equal in this supporting of families, and that our flexible support on the homes of this family is very important, and the progress and the results of this family were very, very good and impressive. I think during these 5 years, actually, we got a really good reputation. I think this also helped. I don't know if I answered your question. I forgot your second question.
Funding, and then what do you think of the child guarantee and the EU initiative, and do you think it can support your work in the future?
Our funding is mostly, yes, from our government and municipality funding, but like I said, we don't have special funding for this family support work that we do, so we cover from different programs, because there is no application where we could apply, because like I said, if you don't talk about vulnerable families, then there is no application to apply for the program.
So yes, maybe I mean, maybe that already respond in part to the next question. We can
yes.
Guarantee
so that's why I think it's very important. Of course, I think it's. I hope I hope that this will support this recognition of this issue, and it will help that maybe our government or other financiers would help us with actually, yes, to fund these programs that are obviously so important in our society.
Thank you, Anna. Josephine?
Yes, thank you. So I took note of two questions. One was whether homeless children could be a target of the child guarantee, and the other one was that there will be criteria for establishing the children in need. So I just want to first just recall what the roadmap is. It is something that we issue very early in the process in the Commission to give information on what we are looking at, on the scope. The exact content might change. It does not, the fact that we have drafted things in a certain way in the roadmap does not prejudge the final decision on the initiative and what we will do. So we really put this out to get the views of stakeholders, and of course we are very grateful for the comments that we get. With regard to homelessness, you may have seen that we mentioned the word housing several times. Whether this will include, does this mean that it will include social housing, homelessness, what will it cover? It is a very broad aspect put in the roadmap, and we are looking into this issue, and we take very good note of the feedback that we get and the ongoing studies that we have. At this stage, I'm sure you understand I cannot guarantee or say what the final product will be, but just to ensure you that we are looking at all kinds of aspects in the field. The same also for the children in need. This is also something that we are looking at, as this is indeed very much a national and even local competence. So this is what I can say at this stage. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Well, it's great because it's 11:01, so we are perfectly on time. I just would like to thank especially Hannah and Josephine for taking the time to provide us with your very interesting inputs. Thank you to all the participants. I can confirm that the presentation from Hannah will be available, as well as a video recording of the webinar. I'm sorry, I forgot to record at the start, so it's late, but it will be available if you want to listen back to it or share it with colleagues. I will also probably follow up with an email, so you can have the UNICEF link if you didn't take it in the chat. And I think that's all for me. Thank you very much again. Feel free to get in touch if you have any more questions on that topic. And hope to meet you at the policy conference next year. Bye.
Yeah, thank you. Bye.
Bye. Bye.
Bye.